Today, we need to talk about something that just happened in Seattle that nobody's connecting the dots on. So picture this. A boy grows up in Brooklyn housing project. His father drives a delivery truck and never earns more than $20,000 a year. One winter, the father breaks his ankle on the job and gets let go the same week, with no insurance and nothing to fall back on. The boy watches his family scramble just to make rent. He earns a football scholarship and becomes the first person in his family to finish college. He sells copiers, then kitchenware, clawing his way up an inch at a time. And then one afternoon in 1981, he walks into a tiny coffee shop in Seattle, and he later says it felt like he had come home. He spends the next 4 decades turning that one shop into a global empire. Tens of thousands of stores, hundreds of thousands of employees, all anchored in Seattle. And then the city he built it in swears in a brand new mayor who walks straight onto a picket line outside his store and tells the whole city to stop buying his coffee. His name is Howard Schultz. And after months of saying nothing, while his old city turned on the very employers that built it, the way he finally answered has rattled every business owner in Washington state. But there's one number buried in Starbucks' own expansion plans that shows exactly how much of Seattle is already walking out the door. And you don't have to live in Seattle for this to matter. The same playbook is already moving towards your state. So hit subscribe, because we're taking this story all the way to the bottom. Let's get into it. So, before we get to what Schultz said, you need to see exactly what he was answering. Started in November of 2025. Katie Wilson had just won the race for mayor of Seattle. She's a self-described democratic-socialist, a former transit union organizer, who had never held office in her life, and she won by little over 2,000 votes. 9 days after that win, before she had even been sworn in, she walked onto a picket line, striking Starbucks baristas outside a store in her own city, and she said plainly, "I'm not buying Starbucks, and you should not either." Read that again. The incoming mayor of the city Starbucks calls home stood on the sidewalk and told the public to boycott the largest private employer in the city ever produced. Then came April of 2026. Wilson is on a panel at Seattle University, and someone asked the obvious question: aren't you worried that wealthy people and the companies they run will leave Washington over your tax agenda? She laughed. "I think the claims millionaires are going to leave our state are like super overblown." And she said, "If the ones that leave like bye-bye," to applause. That was the moment the gloves came off, because one of the people she was waving goodbye to had spent 40 years insisting the city like Seattle was the reason men like him exist at all. And what he did next is where the story turns. To understand why Howard Schultz responded the way he did, you need to know who this man actually is. He was born in 1953, raised in Carnegie housing projects in Brooklyn. His father was a blue-collar guy who drove delivery trucks and worked a diaper service route, and who never cracked $20,000 in a single year. When Howard was a kid, his father broke his ankle and was fired. No workers' comp, no health coverage. That image, a working man discarded the second he got hurt, is a thing Schultz has shaped everything he built later. He got on a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University and became the first person in his family to earn a degree. He took a sales job from Xerox, then jumped to a Swedish housewares company called Hammerplast. And while he was there, he noticed one tiny store in Seattle, ordering a strange number of coffee machines. He flew out to see it, walked into the original Pike Place shop, and he says that he knew right then he was home. The owners did not want to sell brewed coffee the way he imagined it. So he left and started his own coffee bar, Gornale. Then in 1987, the original owners decided to sell, and Schultz bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. There were a few stores at the time, and he grew that into more than 38,000 stores in over 80 countries, and now a payroll north of 380,000 people. In 1988, before any realtor or relator in America did this, he offered health insurance to part-time workers, because the father he watched get thrown away. This man did not inherit a coffee empire. He poured it one cup at a time. So here's what Howard Schultz finally did. In early May 2026, he published a co-op, the Wall Street Journal. And it was not a tweet or a vague complaint. It was a direct, on-the-record obituary for the business climate of the city that made him. He's called Seattle's economic ecosystem fractured today. He listed the rot by name: chronic homelessness, disorder in core business districts, persistent budget deficits, declining schools, a slowing tech hiring cycle. Then he aimed it straight at Seattle's mayor, Katie Wilson, has chosen to cast business as a foil rather than a partner. Her socialist rhetoric vilifies employers, and even when she continues to rely on them for revenue. She has encouraged residents who disagree with her policies to leave, and that is the part that makes it land. Schultz wasn't writing from Seattle. He had already taken his own advice. He'd moved to Florida in March of 2026 after more than 40 years in the city. And he's not alone, because Jeff Bezos, the man who built Amazon in Seattle, had already done the exact same thing, packing up for Florida years earlier. Fisher Investments moved his headquarters out of Washington to Texas. One by one, the biggest names the state ever produced, well, have been quietly chasing their address. The mayor said the fear of exodus was overblown. The people who had actually been capable of leaving were already loading the truck. And here's the part that nobody at City Hall wants to sit with for decades. Washington had no personal income tax at all. It was a whole pitch. Then came 7% capital gains tax, and now a brand new tax of 9.9% income tax over $1 million. Theory is that you can soak the people at the top to pay for everyone else. But the people at the top are exactly the ones with a private jet, a second home, a tax attorney, who can change their legal address in an afternoon. And when Wilson left, bye, she was waving off the residents who could actually take her up on it. That is the second time she has, in effect, told the tax base to leave. So who's left holding the bill? Step in the shoes of a Starbucks corporate worker in Seattle. You're not a billionaire. You have a mortgage in a city that got expensive. Kids in the local schools. A job you have given a decade or two of your life to. Then the morning restructuring laws reporting says that more than 900 workers in the Seattle and Kent area are already been cut. One employee with 21 years at the company described being told his role was eliminated due to restructuring. And quote, that's that. No transfer. No relocation bill package. The billionaire gets a penthouse in Miami. The veteran gets a sentence and a box. Now we get to the number from the start of the video. When Starbucks announced its big move, the headline was about a new corporate hub in Nashville, Tennessee. A $100 million investment, scaling to 2,000 corporate jobs over 5 years. 2,000 jobs. Reporting puts that at more than half the size of Starbucks. Entire Seattle Sodo headquarters workforce. The company still insists Seattle stays its global home, but you do not move half a headquarters worth of jobs to a no income tax state just by accident. The mayor said buy. This is what buy actually costs, written into a press release, and it even gets worse than this. Reports put Seattle's downtown office vacancy past a third of all space, the kind of emptiness the city does not bounce back from quickly. That capital gains tax the state was so proud to raised around $890 million in a year. But Jeff Bezos alone is estimated to have saved more than $600 million in taxes by changing his address to Florida. The math eats itself. And here's the kicker that should worry every politician running this play. That the new 9.9% income tax does not take effect until January 1st of 2028. That money was supposed to capture is leaving before the tax arrives. Wilson's celebrating a revenue source that is busy boarding a plane. So what is the mayor doing? While all this happens, she largely held her ground, defending the tax agenda and the progressive program she ran on. The woman who said bye has shown little public sign of putting the welcome mat back out. And here is where the other side fails too. Because this is not a story with a hero. Howard Schultz spent years branding himself as a working class champion and flirting with the progressive politics, right up until the bill came due for him personally. The man warning about the exodus is writing from roughly a $44 million penthouse in Surfside, Florida. He's not staying to fight for the workers. He just laid off. He's protecting his own balance sheet, the same as the mayor protecting her own applause line. Both of them get to perform. The barista, the corporate veteran, the small landlord, watching the tax base evaporate, those are the people who get the squeeze. And it's not only Seattle. New York just put a self-described socialist in City Hall running the same playbook. California and Illinois keep raising the ceiling on their top earners, and the destinations are always the same. Texas, Florida, Tennessee, the states with no income tax rolling out the welcome mat. The pattern does not care which coast you are on. So let's bring this full circle. We start with a kid from Brooklyn, housing project, who watched his father get thrown away by a system that did not value working people, who swore he would build something better. He built it in Seattle. He poured 40 years into that city and was told the world it was the reason he existed. And now he has even gone writing the city's eulogy from a beach in Florida. Here is the bottom line. When a government decides the people who fund it are the enemy, the people who can leave first and the people who cannot leave get the bill. That's not a Seattle problem or a coffee problem. That's just arithmetic. And whether you're in Seattle, whether you're watching from a state that thinks it would never happen there, this reaches you. Because when employers and the earners walk out, the jobs go with them. The tax base shrinks, and whoever's left has to cover the gap. So tell me in the comments, is Schultz right, or is he just a billionaire who left and started lecturing? If this opened your eyes, hit like, hit subscribe for more breakdowns of stories that hit your wallet. And see you in the next one.